Ask yourself a question you have probably never been asked. When you think of your next life, what direction does it move in? Forward, obviously. Everyone says forward. Your next life is somewhere in the future, waiting for the moment this one ends. But now ask a harder question. Why? Why do you assume that? Where did that rule come from? Because if you go looking for it, you will not find it in any ancient text, not in the Bhagavad Gita, not in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, not in any of the philosophies that gave us the idea of reincarnation in the first place. None of them promised a forward direction. That part, the part where your soul politely queues up for the next available century, is something we added ourselves. We inherited the idea of reincarnation and quietly fitted it inside our modern understanding of time, and we never noticed we did it. For the last 60 years, a small group of researchers at the University of Virginia has been quietly documenting the testimony of very young children. Children who describe with specific and verifiable details lives that ended before they were born. One of them looks like this. In Louisiana, in the year 2000, a 2-year-old boy named James Leininger began having a nightmare. It was the same nightmare every night. He was a pilot. His plane was on fire. He could not get out. Slowly, he began to give his parents more. His plane had been shot down by the Japanese. It had flown off a boat called the Natoma. His friend on the boat had been a man named Jack Larson. When he drew pictures of the crash, he signed them James 3. His parents did not know what to do with any of this. His father was a Christian. He did not believe in reincarnation. He did not want to believe in reincarnation. He began searching for a way to disprove what his son was saying. What he found instead was this. There had been a real aircraft carrier in the war called USS Natoma Bay. One of its pilots, the one killed during the Iwo Jima operation, had been shot down on the 3rd of March 1945. His name was James Huston Jr., and the pilot who flew beside him on the mission that morning was named Jack Larson. James Leininger's case is not the only one. It is not even the strangest. There are more than 2,500 on record, most of them children between the ages of 2 and 5, most of them fading by the age of 7, all of them describing lives that ended before they were born. The researchers themselves are careful people. They will tell you the evidence does not prove reincarnation, it only permits it. But in some of the cases, the permission is very difficult to withdraw. Notice something about all of these cases. Every single one that has ever been recorded, every child in every country is remembering a life that ended before their birth. That is what we expect. That is what the word previous means. But that expectation is not a finding, it is an assumption, and it is the same assumption we started with, that souls, if they exist at all, must move through time the way bodies do, forward in order. Modern physics is not so sure about that. Einstein's theory of relativity has no privilege now. There is no single moment that is universally present for everyone in the universe. Past, present, and future exist together in what physicists call the block universe. Time does not flow through it. Time is a dimension of it. Which means the arrow we imagine, the one carrying a soul from one life to the next, is not something the universe insists on. It is something we brought with us. And here the story turns. Because in the 60 years of research on children who claim to remember past lives, there is a small stubborn set of cases the researchers cannot explain. Cases where the child was already alive, sometimes months old, sometimes years old, when the person they later remembered being was still alive too. The founder of the field, Dr. Stevenson, documented at least 10 of them. He never resolved what they meant. The anomaly he wrote in one of his final books remains. The anomaly Stevenson could not resolve looks like this. In a village in northern India, in the year 1954, a boy named Jasbir Lal Jat was 3.5 years old. He appeared to die of smallpox. His family began to prepare his body for burial. Before they could bury him, he stared. He came back. But when he was well enough to speak, the child who spoke was not the same child. He said his name was Sobaram. He said he lived in a different village. He described his family. He described his castes. He described how he had died in a fall from a moving vehicle at a wedding procession. His family thought at first that he was playing a strange game. Eventually, they made the journey to the village he had named. There, they found the family of Sobaram. Everything the boy had said was correct. Sobaram had died. The manner of his death matched, but there was a problem. One of the researchers who documented the case have never been able to solve. Sobaram had been alive for 3 years, while Jasbir Lal Jat had also been alive. The two lives had shared the same years. Whatever a soul is supposed to do between one body and the next, in this case, it had not done it. Ian Stevenson knew at least 10 cases like this. He documented them carefully. He did not know what to say about them. He suggested in one of his last books that we might be looking at something closer to what older cultures had called possession. The entire of one identity into a body that had already belonged to another, but he never resolved it. He simply left the record and moved on. Now, if you believe that souls move forward through time, this cannot happen. It is a paradox, but it is only a paradox if you are certain that time itself moves forward, that there is a single cosmic now ticking through the universe, dragging every soul along with it. And here is where physics quietly disagrees with the intuition. Einstein showed 100 years ago that there is no such now. Two observers moving at different speeds will disagree about which events are happening at the same time, and both of them are correct. There is no privileged present. In the mathematics of relativity, past, present, and future are not stages the universe passes through in sequence. They are locations in the four-dimensional structure that already exist. Physicists call it the block universe. It is not a fringe theory, it is what the equations describe. In a block universe, the question of whether a soul moves forward or backward through time may be as meaningless as asking whether a book moves forward from page 1 to page 2 on its own. The pages are already there. All of them, waiting to be read in whatever order. So where did we get the idea that a soul must move forward? The answer is not physics, it is theology. In the 5th century, the Christian bishop Augustine of Hippo argued that time itself was a straight line, a single arc running from the creation of the world through the crucifixion of Christ toward the last judgment. Every event in the universe, in this view, had its place on that arc, and the arc could only run in one direction. For over 1,000 years, this was the shape of time in the Western imagination. It became the shape of everything: history, personal identity, biography, science. When Europeans began to seriously consider the possibility of reincarnation, they did not consider it on its own terms. They fitted it inside the shape they already had. But the Buddhist text describes samsara as a wheel. The Jain text describes time as an eternal turning. The Sanskrit word samsara itself means wandering, not marching. None of them promise a next life ahead of you. That was our addition. Consider one more case. In Germany in the 20th century, a man named Helmut Kohler shot himself. 5 weeks earlier in the same country, a boy named Ruprecht Schulz had been born. When Ruprecht could speak, he began to describe Kohler's business, his family, and the manner of his death. He had been 5 weeks old the night Kohler pulled the trigger. Every rule you have ever heard about reincarnation says this should not be possible. And yet, the researchers who investigated the case could find no ordinary way for a child to know what he knew. Put these things together: the case of Jasbiri Laujat, the case of Ruprecht Schulz, the 10 cases like them that Stevenson could not explain, the physics of a universe with no single now, the fact that no reincarnation tradition on earth ever specified a direction, and you arrive at a strange, quiet conclusion. If reincarnation is real, it does not have to go anywhere in particular, not forward, not backward, not in order. Your next life, whatever it is, might not be waiting for you at all. It might have ended in a hospital room in 1962. It might have ended in a field outside Ravenna in the year 402. It might right now in a house somewhere on the other side of the world be just beginning. There is a stranger consequence to this. If your next life may already have begun, then someone else's next life may also have begun. And it may have begun as you. Somewhere in the world or somewhere in a century that has not yet arrived, a child 3 years old might be trying to describe your face to their parents. They may be pointing at strangers in photographs and shaking their heads. They may be telling their family they used to be someone else, giving them the name of the town where you live, the color of the walls of the room you are sitting in, the exact way you will one day die, and your family may not believe them. This is the part of the picture that is difficult to hold. Not that there might be other lives before or after this one. Most of us can know that. What is harder to hold is that you may not be the end point. That the person you are now may not be the last most important thing your soul is doing. This video opened with a question. What if your next life already happened? If any of this is true, that question has a stranger shape than it looked. There may not be a next. There may only be an elsewhere. And somewhere in that elsewhere you are right now, somebody else's memory.